to the Shadow and the Light podcast with internationally renowned meditation teacher, Davidji.
And heart healer and psychotherapist, Elizabeth Winkler, as we guide you through our unique fusion of ancient wisdom and modern psychology.
Get ready to awaken your true essence, heal your wounds, and transform your shadow into Hi, Davidji.
Oh, hello there, Elizabeth.
So I was in Costa Rica recently.
Ooh.
Yeah, I went to surf. I love surfing, but I only like really surfing in Costa Rica and warm water. So I went there for a week. And on day one, I actually got really injured. I surfed my first wave, all was well, surfed my second wave. And I got off the board and the water was so shallow, but I didn't realize that when I landed on my elbow. No, it was bad. I thought I broke my arm. Yeah. And I'm kind of one of those people that like, I get hurt, I kind of shake it off. I'm like, it's fine. I was raised that way. I knew immediately it's not fine. So I got out of the water. I had two friends in the water with a surf instructor. And it was their very first time ever surfing. So last thing I wanted to do was take them out of the water. I'm like, okay, this is not good. And they eventually came out, check on me. I let them surf for an hour and then we went to the hospital and I got an x-ray and luckily it wasn't broken. But it was really, really injured and that's what happened. That was the beginning of my surf week.
Right. I remember reaching out to you and I'm like, you've been in Costa Rica for a couple of days. How's it going? And you're like, oh, have a seat.
Right. So the next day I took the day off. The next day was my birthday. I was able to surf anyway. So cut to the end of the week. I was able to surf the rest of the week, but it was a different experience, getting stronger, figuring out how to surf with an injured arm, et cetera, et cetera. So I was surfing in all these different places in Costa Rica. And the very last day I surfed, my instructor took me back to the beach.
Return to the scene of the crime.
We did. And it was only me and the instructor. And so the walk out there is through these mangroves. If you've been to Playa Avianas, you know what I'm talking about. It's this long, rickety bridge. Think like Indiana Jones kind of vibes. Takes a while to get out there. And I get out there and I'm like, okay, I'm going back to the place. This is all personal inside of myself. I'm not sharing this with anyone. I'm excited in a way to go back into the water and surf this spot again. I'm walking, all these trees and roots everywhere. And all of a sudden, bang, I slam my foot into this trunk of a tree. And my nail, I can see that there's a little bit of blood. I can see that my nail is probably broken.
Someone else might say, the universe is trying to tell you, do not go there. But
well, okay. So my mind went there.
So fascinating how we create reason or meaning. Like, oh, fell and hurt myself. Oh, jam my foot. Clearly, the message is do not go there. That's all created, fake, perhaps, but created reason or meaning.
So what happened was my mind ran with this. And my mind took this little experience and was like, oh no, this place is doomed. You obviously cannot surf here. What are you doing? You know, you're going to hurt yourself again. I watched this entire parade of thoughts moving through my mind and I completely ignored it. I was like, no. I saw that as an option. And I looked in front of me, which was actually the beach in front of me, the instructor walking in front of me with his surfboard. I had mine. And I'm like, this is what I'm here to do. I am not paying attention to the negative mindset. And I'm going to keep going. And I just kept walking. I'm like, my toe's fine. It's not a big deal. I didn't say anything out loud. I purposely chose not to speak about it. I purposely chose not to say anything to the instructor whatsoever. Not even like, oh, we're revisiting the scene of the crime. None of that. I didn't want to give it any power. Right. And so then we went out. I got on the board. I actually had the best surfing of my entire trip. The surf instructor's like, what happened to you today? You're surfing amazing. It was a great day. It was a great surf. It was my last day of surfing. But, even if I hadn't had the best day of surfing, I think the teaching is very important. That so often our mind is like, see, I'm right. You can't surf here. And it's stealing our energy. And so we have this choice. This is the gift of meditation, the gift of mindfulness, to be aware of the mind stealing your ability to be present with what is. I stubbed my toe. That's all that happened. My toe was fine. It wasn't a big deal, right? But the fear is so big in these experiences. And we're all going through this. So when I came back from Costa Rica the next day, I had a full week of clients, and this story kept coming up. I was seeing how it was playing out in every single one of my clients' lives, how they were in an experience that was reminding them of something else. And they were like, oh, see, it's happening again. And it's like, well, is it really? Is that true? The truth was I stubbed my toe and I kept going and I was fine. And I actually had an amazing time. And so often we're not allowing ourselves, and we're like, you know what? I don't feel good about this. I'm just going to sit it out and I'm not going to surf today. And then I would have missed out on that experience. So what's the teaching in this for me? It was a big teaching for me. I was so grateful that I didn't listen to my fearful mind and that I just kept moving. And it was hard, I have to say. Like when your mind takes over like that, this voice in your head that's telling you all these negative things, I've dealt with this throughout my whole life. We all have. Sometimes when that's going on, you feel like there's another entity hanging out with you, talking about whatever is going on. And I'm not listening to this. I'm not listening to it. What is my focus? And this is when we need to be intentional. This is when we need to have a focus of where we are going and why am I here? I woke up that morning with the intention to surf and to do my best. And doing my best would not be listening to my mind. So I wanted to talk about it because it really was a transformational moment for me.
And I think this is such a deep insight because we are constantly searching for meaning in everything. That's what our brain is doing. It's trying to create context. It's trying to assess, where do we stand amidst all of this? Why is this happening? If something appears uncertain, let me force some certainty onto it. We can refer to this as clarity, but the reality is we're trying to make things certain. Here we are in an impermanent, uncertain world, trying to inflict certainty and permanence on our perception of every moment. And this is, I believe, one of your deepest teachings, which is not what should I do with this thing to make it work, but how can I resist it less?
How can I accept? So I accepted that I stubbed my toe and I said, yes, okay, this happened, keep going. But what often I see with my clients, and I mean, all of us, right, is that we don't accept. We're like, I'm never going back to that beach again. It's doomed. And if I'd listened to my mind, guess what? I would have created that.
Right.
I wouldn't have had the experience of something amazing happening on that beach.
This was a moment where like, my toe is bleeding and I'm surfing the thing that knocked me down. And then there's the other story. Oh, I got 2 messages. Clearly, that was the universe guiding me away from that beach. And it's like, how do you want to live your life? Out of fear or desperation, or with expansiveness and open-heartedness? And again, that's a choice.
What's running your life, right? So in that moment, I could clearly see that this was my mind running with it. It was so obvious. And I was like, no, I could just see the screen of the present moment in front of me. I was just seeing myself leaning in to this and not talking to the surf instructor purposely, not saying anything at all. I didn't want to give it any power.
Yeah. One of the beauties about ancient Vedic deities is that there are so many different expressions of divine feminine. We know that divine feminine is the most powerful energy in the universe. There's nothing that exceeds it. It is the most powerful energy that exists in the cosmos. And so there needs to be a lot of different expressions. And that's why we have the goddess Kuan Yin, who's the goddess of compassion. We have the goddess Lakshmi, the goddess of abundance. We have the goddess Saraswati, who's the goddess of art and music and knowledge. And we have the goddess Durga. Who's cooler than Durga? Durga isn't just riding a tiger with a lion's head on it. Okay, that's not just her vehicle. She's riding it side saddle. Okay, if you think about what's the cool, amazing stuff about Durga, she is so cash. Yeah, I'm riding a tiger with a lion's head side saddle. Who's better than that? And in her hand, she's got a sword and a javelin and a conch shell to summon the breakthrough moments and a chakra. She's got like stuff going on. And so I envision you in that moment that you were like summoned, your inner Durga. You're like, yeah, come on, let me walk past some thorns and cut my calves. I will not be denied. I am moving into the unknown, the uncertain, totally arms open, and I'm going there.
It's like, who's at the wheel of your life? Your mind, which is fear.
Right.
Or you. When you choose the moment, which is what I was doing, I was choosing the moment in front of me, not my mind's story about the moment in front of me.
Yeah.
Then guess what? You've got all the energy of the moment. You're participating. You're in it. You're not stealing the energy. The mind steals all your energy and depletes you and makes you feel you have no power, because that's what it does.
Right. And some things that are challenging require us walking through brambles or walking through quicksand or climbing up mountains. Another thing that Durga holds in her 10 hands, one of them is a lotus flower. And we know no mud,
no lotus.
No lotus. So maybe, no one can go to that beach unless they...
Well, I almost broke my arm, which was the mud. And then the lotus was after I tripped, and then I went out there anyway, and I was able to have this experience. Yeah. But it's all one.
Sometimes the moving through the thing, it's part of the fulfillment.
Yes.
One great line of Osho's is that when people say, oh, I'm waiting for the retribution of karma, because I did this thing and I'm waiting, I'm looking over my shoulder. And Osho always said, don't worry about that. The payback is actually embedded in the sin. That upon you committing this sin, contained in that whole process is your payback. And perhaps you never sleep for the rest of your life. Perhaps you keep waiting, looking around corners for something to happen to you. But I think the opposite is also true.
This is the boomerang effect. The boomerang effect.
I think the magnificence is contained not in the sin, but in the clarity and vision. And so the payoff is there. Mm-hmm. But you gotta
do it. It's not easy to walk through fear. Right. I mean, that's what I was doing. I was literally walking beside it, with it, right. And I was like, I'm not being taken over by this. And if you keep going, you keep saying yes, then, it changes.
Yeah, this is the physiological manifestation of the metaphor of, guess what? You want to make something happen? Lean in.
Yeah. Winston Churchill, when you're going through hell, keep going.
Right.
That's gotten me through a lot of things in my life. Now, that moment didn't feel like hell, but many moments have.
Yeah.
To me, this is about saying yes to what's in front of you, whatever that may be, which is acceptance.
We can micromanage that to death. Here I am at this crossroads. Here I am at this choice. It could be, shall I put butter on my toast, or ghee, or syrup, or marmalade, or nothing? Or should I not even have toast? And we torture ourselves, and we could sit there until the toast is nice and cold and not really desirable. I don't eat toast, so I don't even know what that is. But I did eat toast at some point in my life. And then we've waited. Or we're like, no, you know what? I'm going to do this thing. No one goes to Costa Rica to say, think I'll stay in my room today instead of going to the scary place. You already showed up.
Why am I here?
Right, in the land of
uncertainty. The question is, why are you here in that moment? I'm here to do this.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
So I have another story that's very different. Okay, so this one's more about facing fear.
Elizabeth, I could listen to you tell stories all day long. So please,
it's a story of yes.
Let me kick back.
The power of saying yes.
Let me put another log on the fire here, and let me step back and put a little hot chocolate on the stove.
Okay. So this is a story of yes and the power of yes and how it can manifest amazing things. I went to Iceland many years ago with my dad. My dad had said, I'm going to take my children, each child, to any place they want to go. And I really wanted to go to Iceland. I was very drawn to the horses there. That was the draw for whatever reason. So once we got there, we ended up going with a group of people, and everyone ended up knowing that I was obsessed with these horses. It was kind of a joke.
Do they have like a special name?
They're Icelandic horses. I mean, you need to check them out. They have first of all, they have blonde hair, beautiful blonde hair and blue eyes. They're from the Vikings, and they actually have a gait that they are the only horses that have this gait beyond galloping or cantering. And it's like flying. So anyway, I just wanted to see them because I grew up with horses. And so we saw them, throughout. But everyone knew I was obsessed with these horses, and I just wanted to see them, touch them. And so whenever I saw them, I'd go out, I'd hang out with them, things like that. Well, cut to the very end of our trip. One of the guides said, I might be able to get you on a horse. And I was like, what? And he was like, yeah, I think I can make that happen. I'm like, that would be beyond my wildest dreams. Had no attachment to it, by the way, because I just didn't think that would be possible. So at the very end, the last day, he said, we have some free time and I think I can get you on a horse. Everyone else is going to do something else. One of my friends, she said, okay, I'm going to go with you. So we go and we get on these Icelandic horses, and we're taken out by these two Icelandic women, and they take us over the stream. I'm riding this beautiful horse. And then all of a sudden we turn a corner, and to my right is this glacier, and in front of me is the sea, and there's this black volcanic rock, and the sea is hitting up against it, and all of a sudden I'm riding this Icelandic horse. I'm in Game of Thrones, basically. I'm totally in the scene. My friend is trying to talk to me, and I'm like, no, peak experience, and I'm riding this horse on this black sand beach with this volcanic rock, the sea hitting it, the glacier to the side. And I had this moment of complete communion with, you could call it God, universe, whatever you want to call it, where I realized I never could have created this on my own. This was all because I followed the call. This draw, I didn't know what it was. There was a draw to horses in Iceland. And then I never even said, I need to ride the horse. I need to ride a horse on a black sand beach. I never said any of that. I just went with the flow of life. And I said yes to whatever came. And this magical event happened. And what happened on that horse is I had this conversation with the universe, God, whatever you want to call it, and said, I'm letting go. I'm not running the show anymore because I didn't create this. This was created through saying yes to life. So in that moment, I kind of put my hands up and I said, you know what? I said something pretty dramatic. I said, if something really terrible is happening, like my house is burning down, I'm going to trust. I'm going to say yes, because I don't know what everything is creating, but I can see in this moment that me saying yes to whatever was unfolding created this most magical peak experience that I never could have created myself. And so I will say yes, I surrender. And it changed my life. That was a huge turning point in my life. So that's like this dramatic, obvious peak experience, but the Costa Rica thing that happened more recently is the same thing. They're both the same thing. They're saying yes to what is in front of you. And the thing in Costa Rica wasn't this like Game of Thrones. It was stubbing my toe. And it also created something beautiful. Saying yes.
Yeah. Well,
surrendering.
Not every situation is a say yes. But if you've already said yes and get on a plane and fly to Costa Rica, you fly to Central America, once you land there is not the time to be saying no. You've already said yes, and then everything else is supportive of that original yes. If you go to Iceland and you suddenly find yourself on the black sanded beach with the glacier and they're playing the trumpets and blowing the conchs, and suddenly you're feeling this timeless, you've connected to everything for like 7,000 years flowing through you. That is not the time to suddenly go, oh, simmer down here. And so we're not saying just abandon all boundaries at every single aspect of your life. But if you're going to lean in, lean in. And once you're there, open your heart, because that's when the magnificence will unfold. This reminds me so much. There's this show on, I think it's on Max, one of the streaming services that I adore. And it's called Winning Time. And it's the history of the LA Lakers, the Los Angeles Lakers, of Magic Johnson fame, of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Kobe, now LeBron fame. I mean, talk about pedigree and history and legacy. But this was the era where Jerry Buss, this guy, mortgaged and hawked and borrowed and got himself into extreme financial leverage and debt to buy the Lakers. And he then brought in Magic Johnson, and then he brought in all these other players to create this thing. He's the one who invited all the famous actors at the time to come and sit courtside. No one had ever sat courtside, and he had Jack Nicholson and Diane Cannon. Maybe you don't even know who those people are, but they were very, very famous at the time. He's the first one who created a club inside the LA Forum where the Lakers were playing for like special members, and he had it all fit out. So when you went to a Lakers game, you were like going to a private club first and could hang out there and could watch the whole game with your fellow devotees. He's the guy who brought in the Lakers girls, the first time that there were ever cheerleaders in this kind of environment. So, I mean, there's so much, and kept borrowing more and more money and more and more money and more and more money. And he wanted a particular piece of wood to like flow more easily and gracefully inside this club. He said to his lieutenant or his person in command, listen, I need you to make this thing perfect. I need when people walk in, they can move their hand along this and it's just so smooth. And right now it's not, and you need to fix it. And so the guy comes back to him 3 days later and says, Jerry, it's a no on smoothing that line inside the club. And Jerry Buss looks at him, played by John C. Reilly. So we don't know if this conversation actually ever happened. But for television purposes, it definitely happened. Jerry Buss says to him, what? You're telling me no? You're standing right now in the house of yes. This is the house of yes. You're telling me no in the house of yes? You're saying no in the house of yes? No one says no in the house of yes. And that just stuck with me. Every time I'm saying to myself, you can't pull this off. Maybe you should slow things down. This is too intense. This is too exciting. We're moving too fast in the direction of your dreams. That's not the time to pull back. I will remind myself, this is the house of yes. Mm-hmm. Here we are. Yeah. In the house of yes.
This reminds me, because people are like, well, so I'm supposed to say yes to everything. That's not what the teaching is. In the book, The Surrender Experiment by Michael Singer, he has talked extensively about how people misunderstand the teaching of surrender, that saying yes is not about always to the outside. It's a yes to the inside. So we've talked a lot in this podcast about activation of energy inside of you. That's what you're saying yes to. What does that mean? That means you're saying yes to the experience of energy inside of you. You're staying present. I can handle this with the energy in your heart. Why? So that you can transmute it, so that you can let it go. What happens? We say no to the heart. And what does that do? Creates walls of resistance, builds the Hoover Dam inside of us. And then have more pain. We have more suffering. We're more stuck. We're more in victim. And we go to the mind. How do I fix it? This is what saying no creates. It creates resistance. So people really misunderstand it. So I want to say that, because people are like, oh, I'm supposed to say yes to everyone. I'm like, no. That's not what the teaching is. The yes is about what you are experiencing inside of yourself.
Right. Essentially, we're saying when you find yourself in a moment, be it.
Align.
Yeah, that will allow you to make a more conscious choice to say, oh, you know what? I don't want to be in this moment, but you can't come to that place. This is the classic.
You're in the moment.
Right. This is the classic chapter 2, verse 48 of the Bhagavad Gita, which begins with Yogastha Kuru Karmani. Establish yourself in the present moment. Yogastha. Get into that state of Yogastha. Kuru Karmani. Then perform action. Get still. And in that space of stillness, this is where your choices lie. So allow this moment to unfold. I remember jumping out of a plane with someone a bunch of years ago, and they jumped out and had their eyes closed the whole time because they were so scared to do it. And I was like, oh, come on, it'll be fun. And they landed, and I go, how was that? And they're like, I don't know. I had my eyes closed the whole time. While we were flying in the plane, we were 14,000 feet when we jumped out. But they had their eyes closed the whole time. I'm like, okay, well, that's what you wanted to do this time. Perhaps the next time you'll have your eyes open. They were like, no, there will never be a next time. And I'm like, okay, pretty much they just felt like they were falling with their eyes closed. I don't know how exhilarating or fun or positive it was in any way, but we did jump again. We did jump again, and we jumped in Oceanside. And as they were looking at the coast, and we could see into 14,000 feet, you're looking down to Mexico. You could see all the way up to Laguna. And if this means nothing to you, it was a beautiful day, and our visibility was, at least 50 miles in every direction. And then they were ready. And we looked out, and I said, well, when we landed, and they said, it was the most beautiful thing I've ever done in my life. And so not always are we ready for the thing. And that is why I talk about message, messenger, and timing. And so when there's that divine convergence, you know it, because it's a yes. When the messenger, the message, and the timing is all together, you're like, oh yes, oh, this is it. And when one of those things just is off with a little bit of alignment, and we're not even talking about the external experience, Elizabeth really is driving home the point. This is like, what's going on inside? What is your willingness to accept the moment before you judge it, before you decide? Fully accept this thing. Our peak experiences are those moments where we say yes.
You're reminding me of a quote, the Ramakrishna quote. Mm-hmm. Dislodging a green nut from its shell is almost impossible, but let it dry, and the slightest tap will do it. Are you ripe? Are you ready?
Right. And it doesn't require yanking or adjusting or chiseling. It's
just a tap.
Yeah.
You said you got a text or something?
Oh, well, I got a text from that teacher I was reading to you, and she was walking through the deserts, the ancient structures of Utah and Moab, which was once perhaps below the ocean. I mean, we're talking about hundreds of thousands of years ago as water created all these things, which are now mountains and plateaus and vistas and rock climbing adventures. And she said it was very, very unstable. She was walking there, and the majesty of it was just blowing her mind with every single thing that she saw and every step she took. She said, but those steps, they were really uncertain because there's so many unbalanced and shaky rocks under her feet as she climbed through this area. And she said, with each step, she just silently repeated to herself, Yoga sta kuru karmani. Bringing in the ancient wisdom into the present moment. And that's why we say, if you can conjure up certain mantras or affirmations or just reminders that you can weave into yourself, they're going to bring you to that space between, where you're going to make a more conscious choice, because the space between is who you truly are, not the fear or desperation of the past and or the future.
And you're a participant. Like when I'm on that beach and I stub my toe, I'm like, maybe, maybe not, right? When you practice that mantra, guess what? You get to interact with what's in front of you. You aren't a victim of the beach, right? We have power when we align with what's happening.
Yeah. Yeah.
So for today's takeaway,
living the light.
Something I've done quite often is I write the word yes on my wrist. Mm-hmm. Or I'll write a mantra, but for today, I invite you to write the word yes on your wrist. Why? Because you're going to forget this. Whatever you're doing in your day, you're going to keep seeing your wrist. And so you'll look down, you'll see yes, and it'll remind you to say yes to what's happening inside your body, to accept, so that you have the power of the moment with you.
Sometimes I wear particular jewelry. And so my yes is I have this one particular, it's sort of like a stealth. It's called a red tiger's eye. Now, mostly we think of tiger's eye as like yellow, yellow. But this is a red tiger's eye. So it's sort of like my stealth tiger's eye. My Ayurvedic constitution says I should not wear red in any way. I shouldn't wear red jewelry, red t-shirts, red clothes. I shouldn't walk into a red room, drive a red car, have a red... Elizabeth's holding up her red purse right now. Like, I should not have red anywhere near me. But in Ayurveda, if that red is natural, either through stone or red coral, which is a piece of the sea, then that actually absorbs the heat from me, because stone has no heat of its own and the sea has no heat of its own. Only the sun is carrying that heat. And so that helps absorb my heat. It's my bracelet of yes. Whenever I see it, I'm like, yes. So that's my reminder. I don't think you can go wrong with this one, because I want to live in the house of yes. And we invite you to also spend a little time in the House of Yes. We'll see you there.
I will not be afraid of the shadows in the dark. They will lead the way to the hidden pathways of the heart. In that secret place, that is where I find my stars.